Hey guys, so this is a video that I've wanted to do ever since I was a kid and the first time I ever saw a saw blade. Seen a saw blade? Seen a saw blade? Seen saw blade. Ever since I seen a saw blade, I've always wanted to make one of these, and I'm in that weird time of the year where I can't ice fish yet because there's no ice, and I've already tagged out for deer season, and the holidays are right around the corner, so I can't really start a huge project. So we're gonna do something that a little kid inside me is screaming to do. Now I shot this video completely different than I've ever shot a different video. It's gonna be a complete voiceover. Let me know in the comments below if you prefer it this way. So just trying something different. But with that being said, let's get nasty. First thing as I had to do is I grabbed some oak I had laying around. I think this is 2" by 3/4, something along those lines, and I chopped it down to my length on my chop saw, and as you can see right now, I'm just smothering everything in glue. Now I am making 2 of these, and that is why you see 2 things in clamps right now. And once everything was clamped and dried, I waited, and then I took everything out of clamps. Once everything was dried out of clamps, I brought it over to the table saw. Now what I needed to do is I needed to make a slot that was wide enough for a saw blade to fit in, and I thought, what a better way to make that than using an actual table saw blade. So I'll bring over the table saw, I run a groove through one side, flipped it over, and then I ran that groove through the other side to account for the curvature in the blade. Now I was not able to get far down as I needed to on this. So then I just brought it over to the bandsaw, and I finished making that slot groove with that bandsaw, removing the rest of that material, running it all the way up to a line that I had drawn earlier. Where did that line come from? I just figured that was a good spot. But once I had that thing removed, I wanted to make a curve on that bigger handle to make more of an axe feel. And for that, I just simply used the jigsaw and cut it out. Once that was cut out, what I did was I just grabbed a 1/2" round over bit and rounded over the entire handle to give me just that ability for my hand to fit in there really nicely. But to make sure I didn't have any slivers in it, took it over, did my favorite thing ever, got the whole thing sanded down nice and pretty. But that was the big one. Now the little one, I went over to the lathe and I lathed or milled, or I don't know what you call it, turned. I turned the handle over on the lathe, but that did leave me with a small problem. Now you can see right here there was a crack, and we will address this later. But before we address that crack, I wanted to drill my holes through my handles. I thought this would be a better time to do it than before I finished the actual handles. So I just brought over the drill press, and I could simply just drill out some holes. And if you're wondering why my fingernail looks the way it does, that like nice purple, that's because about 6 weeks ago I decided it'd be really nice for my drill to actually slip off of the screw, and I punched the screw head with full force. So that's why it looks kind of like I painted it a little bit. Nice and pretty. But anyways, after that was drilled, I actually used the old hole I just drilled through there to mark the holes in the saw blades. Now, these saw blades were hardened steel, and that did make it hard. So I was actually only able to drill about halfway through before I had to actually flip the blade over. Now here, as you can see, I'm very, very scared, because all I'm afraid of is that once the bit gets through, it's going to grab and then chuck the blade at me. So I'm pretty terrified here, so I put a glove on. But again, I can only drill about halfway through on this hardened steel. So what I did, I drilled half, and then I flipped it over, and I was able to see the indent from the other side, and then I just completely drilled all the way through. And I did this on both blades, giving me 4 total holes. Okay, so honestly, I was only able to drill 3 holes. The 4th hole I actually had to use this file on, because the center bore was actually just underneath where that hole was supposed to be, and I couldn't get it to drill. So I just took a metal file and I filed it down to almost a key size. Then I took some of the Minwax Dark Walnut, and I actually just stained both handles here. Nothing fancy, took a rag, wiped it down. The cool thing about this stain is it really made that grain pop from that oak. I was really happy with how that turned out. Just staining just like you normally would with the grain. And once I had this stain done, I decided I wanted a little clear coat, so I used this spar urethane. It's an indoor, outdoor. I've used it on a few different projects. I actually did, I think, 2 or 3 coats of these on here. Wasn't necessary, no, but I wanted that little bit of protection because these things are going to be whacked around quite a bit, and it really did make that grain pop just that little bit more. And once it was completely dry, I brought it over, jammed the blade up into that slot. I used a couple 1/4" carriage bolts, flat washer, lock washer, and then a nut.
got them all on there, and then I used the socket to just tighten them all down, and then I just used the angle grinder to cut the excess bolts off of there. So now it's time to break out the 5-minute epoxy, and all this is a one to, come on, you can do it. You can do it. This stuff, I don't know if it had thickened up from the cold or if it just didn't seal right, but this stuff just did not want to come out of there. As you can tell, I'm just, yep, there we go, and then just one big goop there. Now this stuff is usually a 1-to-1 mix ratio, so I was able to get the part B out just by sheer force this way, just kind of eyeballing the 1-to-1 mix ratio. Quick stir up here, and then we can start actually applying this thing on. Now I'm using just this quick disposable glue brush here. What I'm doing here is I'm going to smear this really deep into the crack that I had from earlier. That'll help stabilize that crack a little bit, and eventually, oh, and then that happened. That's why you don't really want to use disposable brushes for thick stuff like that. But I just grabbed the tongue depressor back over and just slathered her up, and then I took this twine, and now the twine is here for a couple of reasons. One is to help stabilize that crack. This is going to help hold the wood together so that crack doesn't split anymore, but it's also there to make it look very pretty. I really liked how this looked. Just had to take my time and make sure that this thing looked nice and woven on there. Woven on there the way I wanted it to, but after a while I was able to get it done. I let it dry. Very happy with how it looked. And here you go. These are how these things look. I was extremely happy with how they turned out. Again, that dark walnut stain really popped the grain in both of those handles. And I was very... Oh, sorry. Go on.
Okay. All right. So they are done. Personally, I really like the little one. The big one seems a little destructive. My son pointed out the fact that there's no guards, so if you slide your hand up too far, it tends to hurt. But with that being said, I want to go test these things out and go battle axe some stuff. Prediction is, I think when I go to hit something, I'm going to split this wood, but we shall see what happens. So let's go and test these bad boys out in the wild. So surprisingly, these things are actually doing pretty well durability-wise, and they're actually taking big chunks out. So I want to find just a small little tree, probably half dead, that I can cut down with one. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. See how this thing performs. Very impressed it didn't just explode on first impact. I think we found our first victim. I mean tree when I say victim. This guy. Right here. It's dead. But see if I can cut it down with this thing. It's not really doing a ton of damage, besides the fact that the top kind of snapped off and came after me. But this is all we did. Dang, I like the little one. I think the little one's better than the big one. Yeah. I mean, I'm hitting it pretty hard though, and it's not breaking. One of our old Christmas trees. I'm glad I filmed that because you probably wouldn't believe that I did that. Try it again. Pretty sweet. My wife's on her way out. Told her to send just the youngest kid. She thought she should come too. I might get yelled at. Okay. She might not yell. I'm not yelling because the camera's on.
Hide him. You never know.
What do you think? Cool. I got it. And that is it. Surprisingly, no one got hurt. Nothing got broken. So, I'd say overall, successful project. These are cool to make. So one little annoying factor is you do get wood kind of shoved in these vent slots on the blades. But pretty fun, pretty dangerous. Fun fact, if you want your wife to not talk to you for a little while, let your kids play with these because she was not too thrilled with this. Just one fact. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Promise I'll see you guys on the next video.